good afternoon, good evening, no matter what time it is, welcome. My name is Karin Skasel, and I am here on behalf of Makers Mercantile to show you how to use your bucket of balls or your bag of balls that you have purchased to create these marvelous felted balls. Now, if you've never felted before, this is not a problem. The method of felting that we're going to use today does not require any experience with knitting, crochet, even using a felting needle, or getting messy with water. So you're probably wondering, what? Well, it's actually a really fun method. It's super simple. Children can do it, grandparents can do it, adults can do it. Anybody can probably do this. As long as you can wind a ball of yarn, you can actually do this. So how about we look what's in the bucket and get started. Now, whether you purchased a bag of balls or a bucket of balls, the contents are going to be the same. It's just the outer part that's going to be slightly different. On the inside, you're going to find, first of all, roving. This here is pencil roving, and it is made out of 100% wool. They call it pencil roving because, as you can see, the width of it is about that of a pencil. Some people may call it finger roving as well. So it's already been what we call pre-drawn for you, so you don't need to pull out tiny little pieces. It is all ready to go. You're also going to find a pretty honkin' hank of acrylic yarn. This is an acrylic chenille, and I know it seems a little odd. It's like, what is this doing in my felting kit? But this is actually what is on the inside of the balls, and this is what keeps your balls nice and lightweight. So we like to keep them lightweight because this way you can actually use them on a Christmas tree, you can make ornaments out of them, and so on. These are not dryer balls, just to be certain for everybody who's looking to make dryer balls. These are actually decorative balls. They can be hollowed out at the end, and we'll show you how to do that too. They can also be embroidered and so on, and there should be in your kit, oh, there is, a little bit of embroidery floss and a couple of beads, just enough to get you started. So there's not a lot to do every single ball or anything like that, just enough so you can play around and get started. You're going to want to purchase or go through your closet and see what else you have, other types of embellishments for these. Also, in this little bead container are tiny little rubber bands, and these tiny little rubber bands are going to be used in conjunction with pantyhose. Actually, these aren't pantyhose. These are knee-highs, but they're pantyhose knee-highs, and this is what we're actually going to be doing the felting in. You're going to get instructions as well, and yep, that's it. That's all that's in there. So what else do you need? Just doesn't seem like enough. Ah, yes. What you need to have on your own, either a yardstick or tape measure, pair of scissors, and most important part, you need a washing machine. So it doesn't matter if it's a top loader, it doesn't matter if it's a front loader, but you do need a washing machine. So that's it. These are all your supplies. Let's get ready to go. Okay, step one. We're going to take our acrylic chenille, and we're going to take it out of our bucket, and we're going to open it up. So it's sort of tied in a knot, and what we're going to do is untwist it so that we have a, what we call a hank. And this is a long piece. You're going to want to take all the fibers that we have, these strands here, and you're going to want to make sure that where these strings are attached, that is how your yarn is falling. In other words, if you do it correctly, you should be able to pull it like this, and it looks like a solid mass. Do you see that? That's because we have all these different strings here that are holding it together. Now, in order to turn it into a ball, which is what you're going to want to do, you're either going to need somebody's arms, then they can hold it like this and you can wind it off into balls. Or I frequently use a stool, and I turn a stool upside down, I put my yarn over it, and I do it like this. say that while you were winding your yarn, you made a big fat mess out of it. Don't sweat it out. We can still use the yarn, because what you're going to do next is cut it into pieces that are anywhere from 3 to 3.5 yards long. So if you don't have any pieces that you can find that are 3.5 yards long, then just knot your pieces. It is not the end of the world, you will see. Next step, you want to cut this into 3 to 3.5 yard increments. So this is where your tape measure comes in. You can either just lay your tape measure out on the table so that you know. You can mark your table, you can tape it down to your table, you can do whatever you want. As long as you know approximately, this is, not that important, but approximately what a yard is. So if you're going to be cutting a yard which is 36 inches and you want 3 to 3.5, you want to go 1, 2, 3, and then maybe go up to 18 inches. But don't do more. If it gets too big, you won't be able to get your 20 balls out of it. But you can make bigger balls if you want. We don't have a problem with that either. By now, you should have cut all your acrylic into strips that are approximately 3 to 3.5 yards long. Our next step is going to be to wind those into balls. So you simply take your yarn. I usually start with like 2 fingers, run it over 2 fingers, and then I take it off my fingers and I start wrapping it around the ball. Now you do want to wrap it pretty tightly. You don't want it to be too loose. So just continue to wrap it. Go in circles, change directions, whatever. Wrap it into a little ball. And then when you have the end, just tuck the little end in. There you go. You have a ball. You're going to want to do that with all your pieces. Hopefully by now you have your little balls formed. You should have anywhere between 16 and 26 of these little balls, depending on how you actually cut your yarn. Don't sweat it out. What you have is what you have, and it's what we're going to work with. But your next step is going to be to take your roving and cut it into pieces that are approximately 4 yards to 4.5. So roving is extremely fragile. It comes apart very, very easily. So you do want to be careful while you're doing this. Sometimes you can just let it droop down to the floor, but in general, if you unwind it yourself very carefully like this, while you're measuring it, it's much more helpful. So you can take it and, do your 1, 2, 3, and then get your 4. I actually like to have all of my pieces torn and ready to go before I actually do the wrapping. So that way I'm all set. I don't like to be stopped. Next step, we're going to take this ball and we're going to cover it with roving. Very, very simple. Once more, you're just going to be winding. So you're going to take your roving and you're going to start, and you're just going to start wrapping around your ball. Because you want to cover the whole entire ball, you do sort of want to pay attention to what you're doing, because I will show you what happens if you are too sloppy and you have too many holes, and I'll show you what I mean by hole. So in this case, I pulled it pretty loose, and I have areas right here where I can see the green underneath. I don't want that. You want to make sure that your whole ball is covered, because if it's not, I'll show you at the end what happens. You don't want that. So just take, if you need to take a little bit more, take a little bit more, and just make sure that you have your entire ball covered. And then take your end if you want, tuck it in a little bit, and set your ball aside, and that ball is ready to go. It's ready to be felted. You want to do that with all the balls that you have. Now you might run out of roving to cover all the little balls that are in the acrylic. If that's the case, don't sweat it out. Once more, you should come up with approximately 20 balls in the end that are about this size, but I have seen some people come out with 30 balls that are a lot smaller, and some people that come out with 10 balls that are a lot bigger. So the whole thing is, it's the process. It's having fun. It's learning to do something new. And then in the future, you'll know that if you want to make balls of a certain size, what to do. Okay, so now comes your final step before you actually put your pantyhose filled with the balls into your washing machine. And that step is obviously putting the balls in the pantyhose. So the easiest way to get started is grab a hose, get your little hand in there, grab your first ball, and pull it through like this. And then use one of your rubber bands and lightly just wrap it twice, as close as you can, to the ball. Now you want to get a second ball in. So usually what I do for the second ball is I'll go like this, pop it in there like that, and then I need another rubber band, and then rubber band this. Just continue that until you have all four in here. Alrighty, that was fun, right? You should now have a bunch of strands that look like this. And these all need to go into your washing machine. You can put them in with a regular load, but I usually recommend that you just toss them in with some towels. Reason being is we never know what's going to happen if a little bit of the red might come out, some of the dye or something like that, because what you do want to do is you want to put it on high temperature. In other words, the hottest that your washing machine will go for the longest duration, with maybe 4 or 5 towels or 3 or 4 towels. I mean, just a couple of towels in there. If you put them in a front loader, chances are they'll get all knotted up. You know what? No big deal. They're still going to felt. If you put them in a top loader, you can actually open the top progressively and see how it's doing, but still leave it in for the long run. Most of the time, it's like an hour, I think, if you put it in on your longest cycle, and that should actually do the trick. Okay, so now we've gotten them out of the washing machine, and in this case, they were in a front loader, and I've got a little bit of a mess here. They're all tangled together. And the only thing that's going to be difficult with this is that we won't be able to keep the pantyhose. But that's not the end of the world. We can just cut them apart, and we are still going to have our balls. So we're going to use our scissors, cut open a hose, like this, and take out a ball. Now, they're not going to be perfectly round always. Don't worry about it. You can make them round just by doing what I'm doing like this, just a couple of times. Notice here, there's a little bit of green coming out. That is because there was not enough roving wrapped around and you could see the green. So you need to make sure that your entire acrylic ball is covered with the green roving or the red roving. I noticed on a lot of these, that is the case. There's another one, has it coming out. This is actually a batch where I purposely went a little low on it. It's always good so I can show examples. These are feeling pretty dry, by the way, at this point, and they're most definitely felted. I'm not so sure if you can tell from there, but every once in a while, too, when you're taking off the pantyhose, you'll notice that your pantyhose will stick. Oh, not on this one. That's a weird shape, so just take it, roll it. and you'll get your round ball. Let's see if we can find one that's sticking. This one actually popped open a little bit. The pantyhose did. So let's cut it off, and it looks like it is sticking a little bit. It's okay to actually just pull it off. It's not gonna unfelt it or anything like that. It's just gonna keep it. Notice once more, lots of green. Don't want that. Means that we didn't wrap them properly. This one has a couple of little green flecks, and you know what? Actually, it looks sort of cute. You could still use the ball. You could do embroidery over it, or you could just leave the little green fleck. Let's finish cutting these open here and see what we have. We have an awful lot of green popping out. And the reason I'm showing you this is so that you know what not to do. You want to make sure that when you are winding your balls that there's absolutely no green showing, because see all these little spots? That is what happens. Now, there are things that you can do. For instance, I actually have a couple over here that, actually my little niece calls these vomiting balls, where the stuff is really coming out. And this is a good place to show you that you can pull out the innards. And you're gonna get a little bit of a hollow ball. Now, this little ball looks a little odd shaped, see that? But wouldn't that be cute to get a tiny little, maybe a little plastic mouse or something at the dollar store or whatever? You could have it popping out of there. Or maybe you have a little kitty cat or something, a tiny little something that you could put in there. If you're a felter already, you could felt yourself one, but these little hollow balls can be a lot of fun. There's a lot of cool things you can do with them. Here is a big ball that we were making, same method, that had a couple of holes in it. And so it sort of shifted, but gave us a little open mouth. And now we have a little art piece. We have a little ball inside of a big hollow ball. You could also turn this into a hanging basket of some sort, put things on it, embroider it. There's so many different things you can do. But notice how the inside, this here, it's almost exactly the way it was beforehand. And that's because this is acrylic. Acrylic does not felt. You need to have animal protein fibers in order to felt. And that is why these ones are all felted. It's because of that, the roving that's on the outside of the ball. So that's it. I hope you had fun. I hope you make some more balls. We actually have online different colors of our pencil roving, so you can actually make, you don't have to make holiday balls. You could actually make bright colored balls, you know, orange balls, pastel balls. What else do we have in our bucket? Oh gosh, I don't know. A whole bunch of balls. Is that enough for you? Anyways, oh, white ball. You can do all different kinds of balls, and you can string them together if you want. You know, how fun would it be to make yourself, you know, some kind of a decorative garland out of balls. All different kinds of things you can do. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to write us. We're happy to answer your questions. Have fun.